Welcome to ChillSpill, the place where chilling tales and spine-tingling stories find their home. Tonight, we have a tale that will keep you up at night. A journey through time, trapped in the fog, aboard a train that should have never been boarded. Grab your seat and hold on tight. This is the story of the Phantom Train. It was a stormy night, the kind where the rain seemed to fall in sheets, blurring the world outside into a smudged painting of grey. Henry, a weary traveler, stumbled through the thick mist, his footsteps echoing in the silence of the small, forgotten train station. He had been on the road for days, his body aching and his mind heavy with exhaustion. All he wanted was to get home. Yet, as he stood on the damp platform, there was no sign of a train, just the howling wind and the occasional flash of lightning. The station felt abandoned, the lights flickering weakly like a dying fire. There were no other travelers, no signs of life, just the lingering scent of rain-soaked wood and rust. Henry checked his watch. No trains were scheduled to arrive at this hour, and the timetable seemed as outdated as the station itself. His breath formed small clouds in the cold air, and for a brief moment, he wondered if he had missed the last train. He had been traveling through small forgotten towns for weeks, always catching the last train before sunrise. Maybe this was just another ghost of a station, left behind by time itself. Just as he was about to turn away and search for shelter, he heard it. The distant sound of a train whistle. It was strange. The sound was so close, yet no train appeared on the tracks. Henry's heart skipped a beat as the sharp cry of the whistle pierced the air, echoing through the mist. He strained his eyes, peering down the tracks, but the fog swallowed everything beyond a few feet. Then through the haze, it appeared. A silhouette of an old-fashioned train, its headlights cutting through the mist like ghostly eyes. The train looked otherworldly, pristine but with a strange, almost unnatural aura. The hiss of steam echoed in the distance as the train slowed, the screech of its brakes a low, menacing growl. Henry felt a strange pull toward it, as if some unseen force was guiding him. He hesitated for only a moment before stepping forward, his footsteps slow and deliberate, his curiosity outweighing the growing sense of unease in his gut. The train doors slid open with a loud screeching creak, revealing the dimly lit interior. The sound of the door opening sent a shiver down his spine. Something about it felt wrong, yet the thought of the storm outside made the warmth and shelter of the train irresistible. Without another thought, Henry stepped aboard. Inside, the train was a strange blend of opulence and decay. The seats were plush, covered in faded velvet, and the walls were lined with dark wood paneling that had long since lost its luster. It was like stepping into a different era, perhaps the late 1800s or early 1900s. Yet there was something eerie about the whole place, as if the passage of time itself had forgotten this train. The air was thick and still, with the faintest scent of something old, something forgotten. Cobwebs clung to the corners of the carriage, undisturbed by any human presence for what must have been years, if not centuries. As Henry walked down the aisle, his footsteps echoed far too loudly in the silence. The eerie, quiet atmosphere began to weigh on him. The train felt deserted. No sounds of passengers, no rustling of newspapers, no soft murmurs of conversation, just silence. And then, from the corner of his eye, he saw it. A figure by the window staring out into the fog. His heart raced as he blinked, and just like that, the figure was gone. But he hadn't imagined it. The figure was real. There was something in that brief glimpse of a person, something unsettling, something wrong. Henry swallowed hard and continued down the aisle, his nerves fraying at the edges. That's when he saw her, a woman dressed in a long flowing gown. Her face was pale, almost translucent, her eyes dark hollows staring ahead into nothingness. She didn't speak, didn't acknowledge Henry's presence at all. She was simply there, like an apparition from another time, trapped in the world of this forgotten train. The whispers started next. Soft, almost imperceptible, like a breeze carrying voices from far away. They grew louder as Henry walked further into the train. He spun around, trying to find the source of the voices, but every seat was empty. No one was there. It was as if the whispers were coming from the walls themselves. His pulse quickened as he realized what he hadn't wanted to acknowledge. This train was no ordinary train. It was not merely an old relic from the past. No, this train was something much worse. It was stuck in time. The air seemed to grow colder, the whispers more distinct now. Henry's mind raced. He felt the weight of the train's history pressing down on him, as if the very air was filled with souls lost, trapped in the endless loop of a ride that would never end. Suddenly, the train lurched to life. The ground beneath Henry's feet shook as the train began to move. But it wasn't like any train he had ever been on. It wasn't a smooth glide through the landscape. No, this train felt untethered. The scenery outside the windows flickered, blurring into a chaotic mix of city lights and darkness. The world outside was distorted, stretched out of time, like a film reel melting in the heat. Henry turned to look at the passengers who had suddenly appeared in the seats. They sat perfectly still, eyes vacant, their expressions blank. Some held vintage suitcases, some clutched their hands in their laps, while others simply stared into the void. None of them blinked, none of them moved. The realization hit him hard. They were all trapped. Each passenger was stuck in their own eternity, each one riding the train for a reason unknown, lost in their own personal hell. The woman in the old gown stood in front of him once more, her face void of expression. She spoke softly, her voice distant and cold, like the wind itself. "Woman, you cannot escape the train. Once you board, you are part of its story." Henry froze. His mind raced. Escape? How could he escape when he didn't even know where he was? His chest tightened as he stammered, "Henry, how do I get off this train? Woman, there is no getting off. This train is a cycle, forever repeating, for those who are lost." His heart pounded in his chest. Henry couldn't bear it anymore. He turned and ran through the carriages, his breath coming in short gasps. He tore through each door, each one leading to another identical corridor. The train seemed endless. The passengers sat silently, their eyes following him but never moving. The sound of the train's whistle grew louder, louder until it was deafening. And then, in the distance, Henry saw it, a glowing light. Without thinking, he ran toward it, his legs burning with the effort. As he neared the light, his heart racing with hope, it flickered and disappeared. The light was gone. In its place stood the train station, the same one where he had boarded. He stumbled, his breath coming in ragged gasps. It couldn't be, it couldn't. He looked around, his mind in a haze, but the station was empty. There were no passengers. The train was gone. Henry stood there trembling as a realization crept through his mind. He had returned to the station. But was it the same station? Or was it another stop on the endless journey of the phantom train? Was it all just a dream? Or was he now trapped in the world of the phantom train, forever caught between the realms of the living and the dead? To this day, no one knows what happened to Henry. Some say he still rides the phantom train, forever searching for a way out. And if you ever find yourself at a forgotten train station late at night, you might just hear the distant sound of a train whistle. And if you do, you'd better think twice before you board. Thanks for joining us tonight for this spine-chilling tale of the phantom train. If you enjoyed this story, Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more hair-raising adventures. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and remember, some trains should never be boarded.